Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence. Hope everybody is doing all right out there tonight. I've got a great show tonight because I've got some great guests on. Very interesting. I call them cryptid researchers that are going around the UK looking for whatever is out there. And the channel is called Nights of Terror. There is a link in the description. And some of you might recognise John Williams from BIGFOOT ODYSSEY, came on one of our Halloween specials. And John is I think he's the creator of the channel. Not only that, he's a filmmaker, director, producer, he's all the shebangalanga, he does it all. But welcome John Williams, Dino, John Sol, and Jamie Brightly.
Thank you.
Hello.
I mean, who did create it? I'm sorry, I said, maybe John did, but
it was myself and Jamie initially with the initial idea.
Right.
Of doing something like this, yeah.
Going out. I mean, I know you do. You've made some films, and the based generally on like horror kind of things. So I know you're into that sort of stuff. And have you all? You're all into this sort of stuff. You all have a interest in horror, I guess.
Well, me personally, I started doing things like this because I've always had an interest in the supernatural, UFOs, cryptids, and things like that since a young kid. So it made sense for me to do, whether it's making films about this or doing what we're doing now. So that me personally, anyway, that was my thing. So,
Do you know?
Well, I've acted in a few of John's films, and I'll do the acting really. And they asked me to do this, and I've got to be honest. It's not that I haven't got. It interests me because you don't know what's out there. But I wouldn't say I'm sort of someone who follows all these bits and pieces. I'm doing it with these two, and sort of just enjoying it. It's a new experience, really.
Yeah, cool. Jamie?
Yeah, a bit like John, really. I've always had an interest in the paranormal, horror films, everything creepy and scary. So, yeah, that's why we just decided to get our heads together and give it a go and see how it went.
And you, John, are you into horror?
Like Dino, I'm an actor, so I got to know the group through acting, through some of John's films. But we've become friends, and we do things outside of filming and things like that. And this is, I'm curious. I want to find things. I want to see things, and we have a laugh doing it, and it's it's good fun, and hopefully we'll find some good stuff.
What about personal experiences? Have you had anything happen to you that you can't explain, or you thought might be spooky, ghostly, or?
Do you mean while we were out doing this,
no,
or in general?
No, just, yeah.
I used to have this breathing thing when I was a kid, and I couldn't shake it for years, like at night when I was in bed, and it even followed me to different places. Like, I don't know whether it was in my head or something, but that's my only real that. And we went to a place.
What was that? What did we expect?
What, the breathing thing?
Breathing.
I've no idea what it was.
Right. Well, what describe it? Sorry, I mean, was it like someone was breathing next to you, or?
Yeah, like not just like the sound of someone breathing, like it's in both your ears.
Right. Okay.
It's like even me shouting for somebody to come in the room wouldn't get rid of it. It was that loud. It was like it was in my head, basically.
Spooky.
Yeah, creepy.
And what about you guys? Have you had anything before all this that you can't explain?
Yeah, I've seen a few things over the years. Years ago, I think I was about 17 years old when I decided to go on my first ghost hunt as such. And I was in a building all on my own. I know I was the only one in there because I locked the door behind me. And the security guard who was looking after the place was obviously watching the security cameras. And as I'm sitting in this room alone, I can hear the door unlock from the inside and open. And I watched the door unlock and open in front of me. And no one behind the door. Like I say, just a number of things over the years that has just kept me interested. Yeah.
Creepy. And you, Dino?
No,
You think-
I'm scared of everything. I've got to be honest with you. Everything makes me jump, like majority of things anyway. I'm a bit of a tart. So it's quite a good experience doing these sort of things. I don't usually watch horror films even, because that's even you two talking about your ghostly experiences. I'm looking around in my flat. I'm the only one in here, and it's making me feel a bit nervous now. So yeah, no, I've got no experiences personally.
Fair enough. And you, John?
How long have we got?
All right.
Yeah, it's loads of things. I mean, I grew up in what you'd probably call now a haunted house. So lots of weird stuff happened when I was a kid, various things. My dad used to be heavily into spiritualism, things like doing the Ouija board. Around the breakfast table, cornflakes and Ouija boards. But then that quickly changed. So, I mean, we'd have stuff going on in the house, like we'd had a couple of visitors from the other realm, dead loved ones, my auntie Doris, my auntie this, that, and the other, come and visit. Don't worry about it. It's just your auntie Doris coming to see you, sort of thing. But that all changed quite rapid as soon as you become very religious. So they weren't sort of ghosts of dead loved ones anymore. They were demons.
Right.
So we were like, oh, thank goodness for that. Don't worry, everyone. They're just demons. We're fine. So yeah, that just sort of shed a whole new light on things. But so this all went on when I was a kid. But once I when you grow old, you sort of try and rationalize things. You almost sort of forget some of these things as well, as a lot of people do. But with me personally, it was sort of, I looked back and thought, hang on a minute, what was all that about? You sort of trying to think, and that just sort of led on to some kind of weird journey with films and doing what we're doing now, just being out there and just trying to sort of work out, none of us try and sort of, I don't like to get pigeonholed into a category. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what it is. It's the spirit of dead people, or this is what it is. It's Neanderthal. Do you know what I mean? We don't try and get sort of pigeonholed into anything, a belief system. No. It's all about seeing, experiencing things.
Yeah.
Certainly for me, anyway.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about you guys is that you're going out with no equipment, just like, I know you've got a thermal. Have you got a thermal?
Oh, yes, we've got a thermal.
Thermal, of course, yeah.
No, we haven't. We've got a thermometer.
But you're not going out with this, like you said, the spirit box. You're not going out with any EVP. And because when you think about it, most people that have encounters or experiences are not going out looking for them. They tend to just happen to people.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot in that energy that we.
Well, that's what we talked about. That's what me and Jamie talked about initially, because, I mean, fair play to the people who do these things, but you got people with equipment, EMF meters, like say spirit boxes, all this kind of stuff, and obviously the use of spirit mediums, which we don't use, which is fine, each to their own, but it's just not the way we want to do things. Because I've been to ghost hunts where a spirit medium's picked up the ghost of, I don't know, a guy named Ben who died in a cupboard. So the next 6 hours are spent talking to a cupboard to a guy named Ben who may or may not be there, instead of sort of sitting there just experiencing what's around you, listening out for things. And we just found that to be more up our street and what we really sort of wanted to do. Not to everybody's cup of tea, I know, but that's what we thought. So
yeah, I think there's a lot in it, and maybe like for people like Dino, you just shut up. You're shutting. You don't want an experience, and so you don't. And I'm a little bit like that. I mean, I kind of do. I'm really interested in this for some reason, though. I'm scared. Like, I don't want nothing to happen. Like, if I hear a noise, like, what the heck is that? But I want it to happen. But yeah, there's I know I don't want it to happen. My body's not going, my mind or whatever. But it's when, you're in that state, like in that tunnel, in the pitch dark, you can create. This is a problem, isn't it? What you can create in your own head.
But I think it's like when we were outside, like in the forest and in the tunnel, with me personally, I'll get more scared of things in houses and stuff like that. I think it's always because if you watch an horror film, someone jumps out at you from behind a door, or there's a ghost around the corner, or you see some. If you're in a large area, you can sort of see around you and see what's coming. So, yeah, I don't mind the outside so much, but going inside, I think I'll be a bit more jumpy.
Mm-hmm. What was it like for you, John, in the tunnel in the dark? Well, not so dark then, John Sol.
Well, I was giving it I was giving it the big one before we went in. I was going, it's just a tunnel in it. But like you said, once it gets dark and you're on your own, you don't know whether your mind plays tricks on you. You hear things, your senses become more heightened. So when you know that you're at one end of the tunnel and everyone else is at the other end, and it's quite far and you're in the dark, yeah, it's a bit creepy. It is. And it was worse when you'd got to the other end and you have to go back, because you know what's in front of you because they're at the other end, but you don't know what's behind you. So yeah, it was a bit creepy.
Yeah. Jamie, how did you find it? Was it easy for you?
Not really, no. I mean, we always talk the talk, but when it gets down to actually being there and in that situation, especially when you do wander off on your own, I mean, John will tell you that when I walked off into the tunnel on my own, I didn't get too far because a lot of stuff happened as I was going into the tunnel. There was, footsteps, there was whistling noises. Before I went in, we heard a woman like moaning outside. It was creepy, and the same with the forest. I mean, it's easy when you're in a forest to think when you're there, you're in a forest, so any noise you hear could be a badger or a squirrel or a fox. But when you hear that noise, it's not a badger, a squirrel, or a fox. It's something paranormal in your head. Instinctively, you think, because you're there looking for it, whatever noise you hear, instinctively you think it's a witch or it's a BIGFOOT,
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is that not many people know what a badger sounds like, do they?
Sounds like Bigfoot.
And different animals, different calls. Like a fox has obviously.
Yeah, we're pretty familiar with foxes. I think most of us are familiar with fox calls and cries, especially. But I mean, we've heard a few things now with Jamie and John when we went to Scotland. We did a film called There's Something in the Shadows, which was a found footage film, but based on Sasquatch or Bigfoot or whatever, filmed in sort of the top end of Loch Ness where the forests were. And we were just messing around with it, weren't we, John? We had so much stuff out there and so much weird stuff going on, and
it was like a mockumentary type thing. But when you are there at night and it is really dark and you're off fetching firewood, you hear all sorts.
Yeah. And we know what a fox sounds like. We know what a badger, well, we don't know what a badger sounds like, but we know what a squirrel. Do you know what I mean? We know all the stuff. We know there's deer around. We know there's wild boar around. We know there's this, that, and the other.
Yeah, there's a lot to rule out, isn't there? There's a lot to rule out before you get to that paranormal thing. But it's very easy to get to that instantly. For some people.
I mean, when we were in the tunnel, when we were doing the tunnels, first there was a place called the Monsell Trail in the Peak District in England, and there's big abandoned railway tunnels, which are huge, about a mile long. Some of them are in the middle of nowhere. And when you're in there at 2:00 in the morning and you hear whistling on the other side, you straight away you're just really ruling out people. There's nobody there. There's no light on in these tunnels at all. It's completely pitch black. There's nobody there. And when you start hearing whistling, I mean, a few of us experienced it. It's on the episode as well. You can hear the whistling as clear as day, and I know it's not evidence for anybody, but to us it was. It's very very unnerving, Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a badger.
No. Well, evidence is the hardest thing to capture.
Yeah.
This is the problem with this subject, that it's a personal experience, isn't it, that you can't put down on paper or actually prove. But there's obviously something going on.
I think that's why we do it, isn't it, Jamie? I think it's the personal experience. Because we've all experienced things. I mean, we experienced what you call a UFO. I'm not saying we saw a flying saucer. We just saw something that was unidentified. We couldn't identify what it was. It was in the sky, and it was certainly an object. And we saw it on the last episode in Cannock Chase. We were just filming it. What else could we do? We were just filming this thing, and we're not saying it was anything in particular. We just experienced what it was.
Yeah, it was interesting that I have seen that. Shall we play it?
Yeah, sure.
We'll play the clip and then hang on, a little bit slower here. But... There we go.
Light hovering, big colourful light at was hovering. Station was huge, and I remember it being really big. I came like my dad was a meat plonker. We can go up. And it is, so them two went up down South Street, and it's about a mile walk, say, and they started walking up the hill. And so they're going to walk up the light, and we were quite scared, because we didn't know what it was. And I was like, we'd have the like eye on here. We've got me, see what it is.
They're interesting at the end. I've seen that before. Those almost like tubes of light.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's the first time I've seen anything like that.
Yeah.
It was interesting. There was no... Go on, Jamie.
It's hard to explain to people what you actually see. I mean, because it was there for so long. And then it disappeared for a while, didn't it, John?
Yeah.
It just went, and we was like, oh, that's the end of it. It's gone. And then, lo and behold, it just turned up again. And it was just the way it was going into 3 separate lights and then change. It was just, so it's really hard to explain.
We were sort of just waiting around for it. We were just waiting for it to shoot off up in the sky.
Yeah.
I've read thousands of books on this subject, and come on, shoot up in the sky, so we can at least go to bed. And it was just there. It wouldn't go, would it? It was moving up and down, And the place where it was, just up on this hillside, it's just, all it is forest. There's no houses up there, so you rule like that straight away. There still wasn't people, because if it was torchlight, flickering, and they certainly respond to us. It still wasn't a car. There was no cars up there. It was just a series of lights, changing formation. And I've got a really powerful torch, and it reached the object. It was within our radius. It was in the forest. It was off the ground, but it was in the forest in our vicinity. It wasn't in the sky. It was in the forest because there was trees behind it. And it looked like almost like reflective material. Even though my torch wasn't reflecting off it, that's sort of shimmery, wasn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's fascinating, isn't it? There is just so much going on, isn't there? I can't believe how many people friends that I know now that they know I'm doing stuff like this, have told me about experiences, and a lot of UFO, seeing huge things passing it over the sky. Like, how do only some people see it, or people just not saying anything as well is another thing, isn't it? You kind of who you going to tell, who you going to talk about it to.
Who you going to call?
So Cannock Chase is a well-known hotspot for all sorts of cryptids and sightings. What's the pigment story? What's that about?
It's, to be honest, I'm not sure the whole story, because I think certain things you've got to take with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I believe in some stuff, but you've got to draw a line. I'm not saying these things.
somebody sent something, didn't they? And it was all there was no, they were all drawings, and there was a load of information, but there were drawings of a pig man, weren't they? Somebody put it in a messenger group a while ago. So there's no actual sightings, is there? Or if there is, there's no proof.
There's been a couple of sightings, apparently. There was a book on the subject, in fact.
Yeah.
But the whole sort of thing behind it was almost like a Stranger Things kind of scenario, where they got this like ministry, because the Ministry of Defence own quite a lot of the area, apparently. And there's also a big thing about dogmen over there, werewolves. Loads of sightings from policemen, scout leaders, and things like that of people being bit by werewolves appearing in front of people, dogmen or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, it's just rife with stuff. But Pigman, I don't know. I think could be a bit of a Chinese whispers sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of these things are based from folklore or stories and things passed down. But there's definitely, like you said, a lot of the werewolves, whether they're, I mean, I don't know.
Well, there's places in Cannock Chase that are named after werewolves. There's like, because it's a big sort of mountain bike area as well. People go for mountain biking because there's a lot of slopes through forests. And so there's places like Werewolf Walk, what is it now? I think Werewolf Drop and things like that. So it's steeped in the history of werewolves and dogmen. And like I said, loads of people, even Jamie, you yourself had some kind of encounter, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the first time we went to Cannock Chase. We were just sitting by the campfire, just chatting away as we do, and we was kind of near like the cliff edge, weren't we? That's where we was camping, and I just happened to look up because something just caught my eye, and it was a shadow bigger than I could imagine, just blocked the whole walkway out. And just looked like it just shot past. I can't explain what it was. When we went over there the next morning, where I saw it, all the grass was flattened down as if something had been across there, and it was a big area that was flattened down. So something big obviously went across that area. What it was, who knows?
Is it a sort of crouched thing as it was walking?
Yeah, it was. If I was anywhere else, I would have said it was a bear, But I wasn't. I was at Cannock Chase, and we all know we don't get bears in Cannock Chase, but it was that sort of size. But yeah, it was huge, really, really big.
There's something. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, no, we were just talking to a woman when we got over Cannock Chase. That's the sort of things like you see someone over my way and you're chatting up to them and they're just talking about sort of normal stuff. And we talked to that woman over there and she was saying about, because it's got a history of loads of different things over Cannock Chase. There's people go over there and do seances and all this sort of stuff. And she says she went over there and she sees someone in a monk's outfit. And she thought it was one of these people doing this seance and that. And it sort of moved and it sort of glided. And she looked down and it had no feet. And it went behind a tree and disappeared. And we were like, oh, dear. Well, I was like, well, you don't hear that every day, do you, sort of thing. And that was when we'd only been over there about, half hour. I was like, oh, no. Where are you taking me, John? Like that. But, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of, it's fascinating, isn't it, these things, but actually going out to find them, not sure if I, want to. I mean, I do, but I don't. It's kind of like that thing where, I don't know. Lisa,
I think it's that belief system as well, don't you? I think if you've got, because I believe in things like this. I think all of us do to a degree. But I think there's that 2% in the back of your head that's thinking, nah, not really. Enough for you to want to go out there and do these things. Because if you were 100% convinced that there was a bloody werewolf walking around Cannock Chase, I ain't going to be there. So there is that element, but I want to know, I want to believe that there is, and I do believe that there is, but there's got to be that slight element of doubt in the back of your subconscious that makes you do that in the first place, because otherwise, why would you?
You want proof, don't you? You want proof. You
want proof, yeah. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I remember doing one on my own in Cannock Chase years and years ago by the gym, and there's a large cemetery in Cannock Chase with, I think, German soldiers, I think Polish soldiers as well. There are like 8,000 graves there. And apparently this werewolf's supposed to stalk the perimeters of this graveyard. It's huge, massive. And I stayed there on my own one night. I was thinking, I don't really want to see anything. Do you know what I mean? So I'm here on my own. What am I expecting here? Do you know what I mean?
But there's plenty of things that go through your mind as well, isn't there? Like we were saying werewolves, but then we've seen documentaries on, say, like big cats in the world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, even if you don't think it's a werewolf, then you think to yourself, well, could it be like a cougar cat or like a jaguar or something? So you go from sort of going into the trees that I was at one point, and then you think to yourself, hang on a minute, I shouldn't be standing in here. Sort of these sort of things go through your mind. So it's like, yeah.
The big cats are one thing, aren't they? They seem to be something solid. There's lots of sightings. I think I had an encounter with a big cat.
I remember you saying about the hedge, that one.
By the hedge, nothing that I saw, but something was walking on the other side of the hedge down this lane one night, and it was growling. And I mean, like guttural, like a big cat. That's the only thing I can describe it as. And so I get that. There was that night I checked on the internet. I looked into it. There's over like 350 sightings in that year of big cats all over the place. So they're spotted often. So, but I mean, you know, when you think about it, these werewolves and maybe the dogman men, they have to be a paranormal thing, because if the flesh and blood, they've got to be mating. They've got to be like reproducing, and then before you know it, Cannock Chase is full of like werewolves running around all over the place. But it doesn't happen like that, does it?
No.
We're not seeing like loads of dogmen and baby werewolves, and you know. But I mean, so that's why I think this has to be some paranormal thing, some energy thing, maybe. And people, you know, talk about yeah. I mean, I know nothing about. I've never seen one. No idea how they work, really. I mean, I don't know who does know, but yeah, is it? Oh, John, do you know about Paul's?
John Farmer. No, it was a character I played. Paranormal investigator. Yeah.
I have heard stories of like baby dogmen. I think it was on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Right.
The story about this guy who was quite in with the. When I say I mean as in that sort of mutual respect. And he woke up one day in the forest and there was a baby one standing next to him, sort of sniffing him. That's the only time I've heard of anything like that. Right.
I mean, I just, you know, that's why I feel, you know, I do BIGFOOT ODYSSEY, and I absolutely 100% believe BIGFOOT is over there. People are experiencing something. Terry, you know, who I was co-hosting with, you know, for 3.5 years, 100% believe him. His story is incredible.
Yeah.
And
well, I think that's what it is. But I mean, when you speak to these, because I've spoken to Kerry before, and he's told me about his encounter, and there's nothing like being face to face. You can show me all the video footage in the world, or the you know, share of sounds or whatever. But listening to a person, that's why I like to listen to like face to face accounts, or you know, to listen to a person, because you know a person's lying. There's all the details, and I remember speaking to Kerry about it. I'm like, you know,
body language, everything.
Yeah. If nothing else, that person 100% believes what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, well, I'll get back to being in the UK. So obviously I've spent so long into BIGFOOT. I've never really looked into the UK. I've kind of had a little kind of sit on the fence. Not that I don't believe people, or you know, I can't say I know 100% people are being honest, but America's so big and people are bumping into them quite a lot of the time. You know, there's places where BIGFOOT can just get out of the way of humans, out in the wilds, out in the swamps, wherever, but people are still encountering them, seeing them, you know, and they're reproducing. If they were in England, I mean, we would be literally tripping over them if they were here. We'd have to, you know, it's not that big a place. And I know we're not built on a lot of it. I mean, a small percent. What are we, like 10%? It probably less than that.
It's
actually
very
built
small
on.
amounts. I mean, where we live, well, where me and or me, nobody else was, where I live, it's the Peak District, and it's a huge area. You've got forest moorlands that travel for miles and miles and miles. And if you think, if let's say some nocturne, like for example, right, Britain's full of badgers. I ain't never seen one. I've
you
never
heard
seen
one?
a badger. I've heard one.
I have.
Would you know what it was?
I didn't know, just some stripe thing when it passed. But it was, I've never ever seen a badger. But I know they're there. Never seen one. And they're not trying to hide from anyone, they're just there. I've never seen a mole. You know what I mean? All these things. Because generally I've seen a couple of owls. I've heard them.
Yeah.
But they're there. That's basically what I'm saying. But if you want to sort of stay, it depends what your belief system is. If you think these things are like animals running around, then I think the chances are they're going to be seen by now. If you think there's sort of some supernatural being somehow that exists, because I know people who've seen these things or a version of these things, like a black mass with the glowing eyes, in factories in Stoke, in a city built up area, in a factory. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? But he saw it. He was adamant that he saw it, which makes you think it's some kind of, maybe what you're saying about a portal.
Yeah. I think whatever happens, people are experiencing something. What it is, no idea. But genuinely, you can tell when someone has had a genuine experience. I feel. I was going to bring this up before, actually, Lizzie. Hi, Lizzie. It says Matlock is very paranormal. Matlock is a very beautiful place, and it's full of crystals, isn't it? It's a place for crystals, I think. And I wonder if the energy from crystals. Have you looked into that? How they
Matlock, as in Matlock Bath, or
Matlock.
Matlock, where the river is, just like in a big quarry, isn't it? I think.
There's like a lift up to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. No.
All right. Well, I mean, a lot of people say, it could be crystals, could be kind of stuff
energy.
like that creates energy, and or even ley lines. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard now to find maps with original ley lines on them, as far as I know, unless you bought property, a long time ago. But just, you think Cannock Chase? Why would Cannock Chase have I mean, I know nobody knows, but why would you think that is a hotspot? What do you think is going on there? There's obviously a few places, like we were talking before, like Bempton, which is clearly something going on there. What do you think could be connecting these places or creating this energy for things to appear, if that's what's happening? Anybody? If anybody thinks, anybody thinks it might.
I don't know about energies and stuff that's attracting stuff there, but I think it's kind of similar to what John was saying earlier about, we know badgers are there, but you never see them. So is it a case of Cannock Chase is such a big place? If there is anything coming through a portal, have they seen that there is places to hide there? So it's kind of like a safe haven rather than just being an energy that draws them there. Is it a case of something searching for somewhere to be safe? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As opposed to opening one on the M6.
Well, that would be, probably be bad.
Get a lot more cameras on it, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely get the evidence out, wouldn't you? Yeah, I think it's pretty much it. I think I 100% think it's sort of some kind of portal openings, or I mean, it has to be, really, surely.
What else can it be?
Yeah.
We've just got no idea, have we? So you heard what did you find out what the growling was? Or on your second episode, Cannock Chase, you hear some growling. I guess some of the guys in the chat, if it's not something,
I think that's a prime example of 4 Englishmen in the woods, because we're not hunters. None of us are hunters. I mean, Dina, we've been camping before.
No, I weren't.
You know what I mean?
I weren't about to stay the night. It's like, it's
so
a bit of me.
You know, I mean, but obviously we're there to experience these things. We saw the UFO later on. We also heard, again, not on the night, but we did record voices when Jamie was talking to, because we could hear crashing and branches snapping, 2-3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. We could hear the stuff all around us. Like I said, there's nobody about, but it's quite unnerving. And Jamie, were doing a call out, if there's anybody there, and you could hear quite clearly a voice talking on we call it EVP or whatever you want to call it, but you clearly hear a voice, and it's quite unnerving. Who knows what it was? We don't know.
It was clear.
I think it's more.
Yeah, it was clear.
Yeah, I think it's more unnerving when you listen back to it, because you didn't hear it when it happened. So when we was playing it back and I sent it to John, I don't know, you just get all the goosebumps, don't you? And because you don't hear it at the time, so you're just there, doing whatever it is you're doing, and then you catch it afterwards, and that feels more creepy, that something was that close to you saying it and you didn't know it was there. You have no knowledge of it until you get home and you're safe.
And it was also so responsive as well, with you saying, Jamie. Yeah. What did you say, Jamie? Is there anybody there?
Is there anybody there, or just something like that?
And it appears to say yes.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it said. The second thing it said, I have literally no idea, and nobody's ever come close to guessing what it said. So if anybody else out there can tell what it says on the second time, because I'd love to know. It's all like a 3-syllable. It's either a 3-syllable word or it's a sentence. We just can't work out what it says.
Right. Well, go on. Sorry.
And plus the fact with the noises, when you're out in a forest, you ain't got the benefit of internet or anything like that. So you might hear a noise. And to be honest, I can't tell the difference between a sort of a frog and a panther. To be honest with you, or badger. So. If you were at home, you get a noise and you think, "Oh, I'll go on my phone, I'll Google it or whatever," and then you put the noise in, what that sounds like in the thing, and then you can see you got no internet response out there, sort of thing. So you're like, "Oh, I wonder what that was," and then you hear it back, and you start looking up bits and pieces. But when you're out there, you're convinced it's a tiger at 2 o'clock in the morning, or Bigfoot or whatever it might be,
Well, that was the thing, because Dino's first 2 guesses. Again, going back to 4 Englishmen in the Forest, Dino's first 2 guesses was a frog and predator.
Yeah, that's it.
So
it's got to be something.
I
reckon.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist, but I don't think it's predator.
No.
Or a frog.
What do you think, John? Saw? What do you think it was?
Well, strangely enough, we'd been there. Me and John had been there before. Was it about a year before, John? Filming something.
Something in the shadows, yeah.
Yeah, and we weren't there for any other reason but to film the finishing scenes of this film. And
it was a BIGFOOT film, wasn't it?
And we heard this. It was the same thing. I mean, the only thing I could think would sound like that would be like a wild boar or a pig. But what are the chances of that? I don't know. So
we also heard making this film, because this film, I got Ron Moorhead gave me permission to use the vocalizations from the Sierra Sounds.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
to use on the film. I asked, obviously after permission. So all the sounds in the film were actual sounds that was recorded. But when we were out there filming, we filmed a lot of it up in Scotland, but I filmed quite a bit of it, the close-up stuff in Cannock Chase. So when it comes to a scene where we could hear the whooping and stuff when we were inside the tent, and we had to do a runner, bear in mind it's a found footage film, so you pick up what you pick up. We get out the tent, and one of us shouts, "Which way?" And we hear a female voice saying, "This way." And at the time, we didn't hear it. But when I was editing the film, I was like, "Huh? Who's that?" It's a female voice saying "this way," and we could hear a child's voice saying something. I don't know what the child's saying. But it's in the film, you know. It's what can you do about it? I literally couldn't remove it from the film. But you could hear a child's voice and a female voice talking to us when we were there.
Wow.
So it was so weird. After, like I say, we didn't hear nothing at the time, apart from what John said about that growling thing.
Creepy.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
I noticed you were looking behind you.
Yeah, I know. I keep on looking around. I'm thinking I'm the only one in this flat.
You'll be all right. Be all right. It's interesting when you, like Jamie says, you don't hear it at the time, but something gets recorded, something gets put down on the audio. It's it could be frequencies. This is what I've often thought, and I always think of it like this. When you're listening to the radio, you select a station and you can only listen to that station, but it doesn't mean those other stations aren't broadcasting. They're sending there, but you have to be tuned in.
Yeah.
So some people are just tuned in, don't they?
I saw a goat. Just sorry to interrupt you there, Daniel. Just while I remember this, the only time I've ever actually seen an actual what you call a ghost, like a physical being there, was I was doing a ghost hunt at a place called Stanley Palace in Chester in England. And there was all these spirit mediums there, and they were all looking at that big grand staircase, which goes off to the left and the right at the top. And they were all looking at this lady who apparently sort of roams the staircase at night, waiting for her husband to come back from the war, the usual sort of story. And they were saying, "Oh, can you see this lady?" And I was like, "Well, no, because she's not there." So, well, this is what you have to look out for. And this guy was describing this lady, and he said, "What you need to picture in your head as a blackboard, draw the image of a person on the blackboard, and then smudge it out with your fingers." And as he was talking, as he was describing this to me, I could sort of see something, because I was watching, obviously, on the staircase. I could sort of see something, and before too long, the more I listened to him, the more I looked, I could see this woman walking up and down the stairs. Now, whether that's a power of suggestion or whether that's, like you say, sort of tuning yourself into it, the only way I could describe it was if you walk into a dark room, say if you walk into your bedroom, you turn the lights off, it's pitch black, we'll give it like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you can pretty much see everything else in the room because your eyes are adjusting to it and your brain's telling you what's where. That's the only way I could describe it, and I could see this woman walking up and down the stairs. And then I looked away, and as soon as, I couldn't see her anymore.
Yeah, I saw something when I was a kid that I don't believe I, imagined it. It's like if you dream, you forget your dreams, don't you? But when something happens to you, you remember.
Yeah.
You remember that. And I was 6 or 7. I mean, I was really young, and I remember waking up. I was sleeping with my body to the wall, if you will, and something woke me up, or I woke up, and I kind of turned around, and there was, I feel like it was a female, but it was like someone stood right by my bed looking over me, all white, but almost like blurred out white. And I didn't feel any panic or anything. It was almost like they were saying, "It's okay, don't worry, it's fine." And I tried to turn myself around again, and it had gone. But it felt like a female figure. 100% I saw that.
Like a panic on Dino's face when you tell
No, I'm not listening to no more.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. And it was just a dream. I woke up, it was fine.
Everything was fine.
Oh dear. My electric bill's going to go up tonight. I ain't going to be able to turn the light off.
Tell Daniela you sleep with your fan on, Dino.
Yeah, I'll sleep with my fan on because it blanks out all the noise. I had when I first moved into my flat, I got I could hear noises, and I only live in a 1-bedroom flat, and I got up like 17 times in a night because I kept on hearing, lay down in bed, I kept on hearing I was like, oh no, I've got to check what that is. So I'll get up, check everything, go back to bed, lay down, I was like, oh no. So I've done that like 17 times. So I bought a fan. So I do sleep straight away really now, but I probably won't tonight.
So you moved into the creakiest kind of flat you could.
Yeah, that's it. Just all the doors are pinned open now, and like put door stops in front of them and everything, so nothing moves.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's like that like in the films, isn't it? When something happens in the house, keeps happening, it's like move, just move. Just move. People don't.
It's only creaks.
I know, but I mean, people do have, like John. I mean, I guess that was where you grew up. You didn't really have a choice to move when your family, your dad, was, getting the Ouija board out of breakfast and stuff.
No, to be honest, it wasn't so bad when the Ouija board stuff was going on because that was quite normal. But then when the whole religion thing kicked in, it was quite horrible. From the ages of sort of 12 to 15, it was just horrendous every night. Was just terror. It really was. It was just awful. I'd be sleeping. I didn't know whether to sleep with the lights on or the lights off. If the lights are on, then I can see everything, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And if the lights are off, then you can't see anything. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them. I didn't know what to do, so I just ended up sleeping with the lights on, and I'd sort of sleep in the fetal position and all this. And I always remember, and I wouldn't sleep. I'd probably sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. I always remember one night, I was probably about 12, I was terrified because I could hear banging on the cupboard next to the side of my bed. I was really, really scared. So I was lying there, literally, I used to shiver. And then I remember something crawling up my bed. If you got your hand now on top of your back and pressed on hard and did that like a spider motion up your back, that's what it felt like. And I probably was scared I've ever been in all my life. I was too scared to shout or get out of bed or anything. I just waited until like 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was to like go to school. Oh no, I'll never forget the feeling of that happening,
Yeah.
And I always think to this day it happened because I was so scared already.
Right. So it kind of
played on that
power over you.
Feeding on the fear.
Yeah, I swear that's why it happened. And I told my mum and dad, I was like, oh, it was a mouse. A mouse? I would like to meet that mouse in a dark alley. Or a cat. We haven't got a cat. All these things they were saying, it was probably a cat. It was just a random cat climbing in through the window. It wasn't none of that. I knew what it was. It felt like a hand pressing on really hard.
Someone's concerned for you.
Yes.
They know me well already.
So, where's the next venture to? Where are you going next in your for your night of terror?
So we're trying to sort that out at the moment. Me and Jamie are on a sort of a daily thing with this. We think we're definitely going to go Bodmin Jail, which is in Cornwall. That's our very famous prison, old prison sort of thing. There's a few other places. I mean, we're going to do 6 episodes for this season. Then we obviously want to do a second series. We definitely want to go over to America as well and do some stuff for the cryptid stuff. But that's obviously for another time. But get the series done first and see where it takes us. At the moment, we're just enjoying ourselves, and it's a good laugh. And
I think that's the best way. Yeah. Do it. I mean, you can't plan an encounter. You can't plan an experience. You've just got to be there at the right time in the right state of mind, I guess.
I think that might be what it is, Danielle, because we go out there, we just sort of enjoy ourselves, and we have a lot. Anybody who watches the episodes, they might think, well, we're not standing there with EMF meters all night and talking to a tree, or we just talk. That's what we do. What else? I mean, we're filming the whole episode, but when we get there, all we do is just talking to each other, because what else are we going to do, until it goes dark. So most of the episode, I'd say half of the episode is us talking about experiences or talking about films or just talking to each other about stuff, random stuff and having a bit of a laugh. But I think me and Jamie have talked about this. You could create sort of some kind of positive energy or an energy in general. You know what I mean? We're not sitting there with binoculars and trying to catch something. We're just literally going out there and creating a good. Well, I don't know. What do you say, Jamie?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of working as well. Where we've been so far, we've always had something happen, whether it's paranormal or not, but I don't know. But it does seem to be working quite well. And the feedback we've had so far from the episodes people are quite enjoying the fact that it is quite amusing as such, as well as, you know, the first half is quite funny and relaxed, and then when it does get a bit darker and a bit scarier, and
We
stuff
go home.
happens. Yeah, we run away,
Run
basically.
away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's working really well at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, is to create that positive energy. If anything is out there, it's going to be attracted. I think even if you had an argument, big argument, it could create some interest. I know the guys were doing that over on BIGFOOT ODYSSEY when they went out to the 168. They ended up having a pretend argument, and it was attracting. It was creating something. And also the Sisters of the Moon, a bunch of ladies were going out camping. They did a mock argument, and there was definitely activity going on around them. They'd stirred up some interest in, you know, what they think is Bigfoot. So
okay. Maybe it works both ways then.
But I suppose you build your energy up as well, don't you? Like when you're doing that sort of thing, you're sort of getting more intense, more energy, and like it's I suppose it's I suppose you get more tense and everything like that, and you're more susceptible to seeing stuff, I suppose.
What's the
Maybe
difference?
maybe it works both ways then. So if you're having a laugh, enjoying yourself, or having an argument, works both, creating like Monsters Inc.
Yeah, well, you're on a different frequency, aren't you? When you're happy, when you're laughing, as to when you're scared or having an argument or angry. Surely.
I think so. I think you're giving out different
Different
vibrations.
vibes.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, vibes or something like that. And I don't know. Have you had problems with equipment, with the batteries going quick on your cameras or your?
We haven't got any equipment.
Well, I mean, yeah, what you've got, with anything that you've got, because I mean,
Watch went.
Yeah,
What?
the carrot on the string ride.
Yeah, if you watch the latest episode, we do quite an unusual experiment involving a fishing wire and a carrot. We won't go into that here. We have had times where the mobile equipment we have had, it's the same old story. Power surge, batteries going really, really quickly, especially in the tunnels on the first episode. I mean, we're stuck in these tunnels. I've got a torch. It's like a lighthouse. It's ridiculous. If I shine it now, you can probably see where you are, Daniel. It's ridiculous. It's like a Batman thing. And he was going. It lasts forever. And he was going. I fully charged it up, and within an hour, well, probably 15 minutes in total, shining the torch, it was going. It was flickering, and everything was going. Wasn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, but it seemed to be. It wasn't working in the tunnel, and it was flickering, and it was going off and dark. But then when we got out and we went back to the top, it worked fine.
Mm.
We shined it again when we got to the top, and it was absolutely fine. It was only when we was in that tunnel that it went weird.
There's something going on, isn't there? Obviously, but I think energy is really the key. And you'd think with 4 of you out there, you could create the right energy for maybe some interesting things to happen as you're going along with your episodes. I think if you went to America, that'd be amazing. If you went out looking for Bigfoot and you saw one, I think you'd have more chance of seeing a Bigfoot than seeing a badger.
We'll see what a good swimmer Dino really is.
Oh, God, swim.
as he swims across the Atlantic.
Right, guys, I'm going to put the link again in the chat for you guys to go over and check out Nights of Terror over on YouTube. I'll just put a link in there. And check out the second episode, the Cannock Chase, because they heard some growling, and I think they'd be really interested to know what people think the growling could be. Could be a badger. I don't know. It did sound like a frog a little bit.
It wasn't a frog.
Well,
You're supporting Dino's vision.
No, I'm not. I'm just initially, yeah. But what was interesting was you were walking closer to it, and I think if it was something, if it was aware of you, it would either move away or come.
There's more
come
chance of it being predator than it is a frog. There's
Hey,
no way that was a frog.
The thing is, I thought it was a frog, and then when we did get closer out into the thing, it sort of went, and I was like, well, that ain't a frog.
Okay.
Like
All
that,
right.
and I was like, oh, what's that sort of thing? But no, I don't know. Like I say, probably I've got no idea. I don't like touching frogs, so I don't know what it is.
No, you don't want to touch frogs. You never know
Nah.
where they've been, really. But anyway, guys, yeah, in the chat, if you want to go and check that out, I'm sure a lot of you hunters out there might have heard that growl before. If not, who knows? It could be anything, literally anything. But guys, it's been really fun talking to you tonight. It'd be great to catch up with you again as you do a few more episodes and see what you've been catching, what you've been finding, and yeah, I'm enjoying the episodes so far. But thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You're
I'm going
very
to put a cartoon on there before I go to bed.
Yeah. Keep the fan on as well, in case. All right, everyone. Thanks for everyone in the chat. I'll see you over on Bigfoot Odyssey on Sunday night. It will be Sunday night. But until everyone, have a good night, and I'll see you all soon. Good night.
Thank you very